Hello everyone and welcome to this another episode of 3D prototyping in Unity. My name is Kasanas, and the last episode we set up the reaction to our player actually interacting with the cake asset. In today's episode I'd like to finish off this portion of the series and complete the arc shot. Alright, let's get started. Okay guys, so our goal today is to finish up this section of the series. We're going to try and finish up the arc shot as well as dealing with this cake. Some of you guys are wondering why I chose an arc shot, and uh, it's just an example. So there are many different types of shots within cinematography theory. You know, the long shot, the cowboy shot, the close up. There's a million different kinds. An arc shot is just one example. Uh, Basically, I chose it because it's got a number of uses within game theory as well. I think. So, in case you're wondering what an arc shot is, basically what an arc shot is when the camera circles around the object of the shot. It doesn't have to make a complete 360-degree rotation. It's just a slowly circle around the actual object of the shot. And a really good example of this, and one that's most commonly used, is from the 1976 film Carrie. And it's in the prom scene, and the prom dance scene, and Carrie is dancing with her prom date, and the camera is slowly circling around the couple as they dance on the dance floor. And the reason why, like, this is supposed to show Carrie's like excitement and the vastness of this situation to Carrie, and her happiness and that kind of thing. So I've really chosen this arc shot thinking that I could use it whenever the character picks up the cake. All right, this is his reward. He goes through his reward. He's exuberant, and therefore we go through this arc shot. But it could just as easily be used for something else. It could be used for whenever the character dies, for example. You could do this arc around the character, slowly showing the character dying and that kind of stuff to try and invoke a specific emotion within your player. You know, some emotion of sadness and watching your character slowly die. Now, we're going to be doing this arc shot mechanically. We're really going to be doing it. We're going to actually go through and we're going to build the scripts that are going to cause this arc shot to work. And we could either go through and do it through animation, which is the way I'm going to do it, or if you wanted to, you could go through and you could do it all through code. This is not going to be a procedurally generated shot, meaning, in some cases, you can generate these shots procedurally. You can set up cameras to always zoom in on a certain thing. There's a number of different things you can do, and there's a number of different assets that you could buy actually from the asset store that completes this stuff for you more procedurally. But in this case here, what I want to do is do it in a more basic manner, which is going to require more code on our part, and it's more static, I guess is what we should call it. It's more static in the fact that we're building strictly an arc shot here. Okay, so there's a number of different changes that we're going to need to make before we can go on and actually have the shot working. The first thing we're going to change is the structure of our camera group right here. If we take a look at our camera group, right now it's currently set up as camera group, which is located at the character's feet. The job of the camera group was to act as a dynamic following script for the character. So as the character runs along, obviously the camera group follows along and catches up. That's its job. The main camera, which is a child of our camera group, is strictly there to actually act as our game camera. Yes, we've put some extra stuff in. We've made it into so it goes through the walls and that kind of stuff. But otherwise, it's strictly there to act as our main camera. The camera group is located at the origin of our character, so it's right at the character's feet. So we can see right now in the transform node, everything is zeroed out, which is great. And we want to leave it like that. I want to make sure we're not playing with this transform. This job of this transform is going to be strictly to follow along behind the character. So what I want to do first is I want to go up to here with camera group selected. I want to go to game object, and I want to say create empty. And that's going to put a new game object, underneath the hierarchy of the main camera group. And I'm going to change the name of our camera, this game object to camera. Let's call it camera rotation group. Doesn't really matter what you call it. Camera rotation group. And we can see right now that the camera rotation group was added as a child to the main camera, or to the camera group right here. And the transform, everything says 0 here, so it's right at the origin of our actual camera group, and that's where we want it to stay. Okay, it's at the origin of our camera group, and that's at the origin of our character, and that's perfect. What I want to do is grab our main camera, and I want to drag it, and I want to drop it on the camera rotation group. Okay, so the new hierarchy is camera group, camera rotation group, and then main camera. And we can see the main camera, the values in the main camera have not changed, all right? Because the camera rotation group's origin is at the same origin as the camera group, everything in this nothing should change there. Okay, nothing should change there. And basically what we want to do is we're going to use this camera rotation group to rotate around our character. That's what our plan is, to rotate around the character. I'm just noticing down here right now that we've got 2 audio listeners in the scene, and we'll deal with that at the end of this as well. Okay, so that's basically what we want to do. And there's a number of different ways to do it, like I mentioned. You can go through and you could do it through code, or you could do it through animation. And I've decided to do it through animation. So with my camera rotation group selected, I can see there's nothing in here for animation purposes. I'm going to make sure saying window animation that my animation tab is up, and I'm going to say create. And it's going to say, what do you want to create? And I want to create a brand new animation. So let's go to our animation screen, our animation tab, sorry, and we'll call this camera idle. Let's just call it camera idle, and we'll save that. All right, and camera idle, I'm going to add a property, and I'm going to add transform, and I really want to affect the rotation in this case here. All right, our camera idle is just going to affect the rotation for now, and we can go through and add more later on if we wanted to. And I'm going to get rid of this at the end. I'm going to get rid of this. I don't need those keys at the end. Really, all I want to do is make sure that at time zero, our camera is not moving, and it's going to remain in that state for as long as I want it to. Okay, if I take a look now at our animator, we can see that we've got only one state. Let me turn this off for now. Only one state within our this thing here, which is our camera idle, and that's perfect. So our camera idle, it's going to remain in our camera idle until we say otherwise. Okay, let's go back to our animation tab, and we're gonna add in a brand new animation to this. Okay, I'm gonna click on these tiny double arrows right here. Click on it. I'm gonna say create a new clip, and it's gonna say where do you want to create it. I'm in the animation folder, so that's great. And I'm gonna call this one here. Let's call this arc animation. Let's just call it arc animation, and we'll save it. Okay, and that automatically populates our animator here, and boop, we're gonna put it right there. Now, within our arc animation, I want to add a property, and I'm going to add the transform, and I'm going to add the rotation. And basically what I want my arc animation to be is a 365-degree rotation around our character, and I want it to occur over 2 seconds. So I'm going to grab this guy over here. I'm going to go all the way out here to 2 seconds. Let me just find it here. Out to 2 seconds. I'm going to drag these over so that they're at the 2 second mark. And basically all I want to happen is I want there to be a 360-degree rotation. You can either choose a negative or positive rotation. It's going to be up to you around the actual character. So let's go back to our scene for a minute. Let's turn this off just so we're no longer in record mode. And let's go back. Let's stretch this out. Let's go back here to 0. And watch what happens. If I drag along here, we've got ourselves a rotation of 360 degrees around our character. And in this case here, I don't want to slow in and slow out. Let's take a look at our curves and make sure we've got a nice straight line between 2 points. There is no slow in or slow out, so we should be all set. Okay, it's going to be kind of a jarring end to this rotation. If you wanted to, you could actually add a slow in and slow out to both of these. So what I do to do that is I'd right click, I would say flat, and I'd go over to the side here and I'd right click and I'd say flat, and that's going to give us a slow in and slow out to this animation. So if I hit play now, we can see we slowly go around. Okay, so let's leave it like that. That's fine. Let's leave it like that. Let's stop it. Okay, so we've got ourselves our rotation in there. Let's go back and take a look at our animator right here, and we're going to want to leave our idle animation only under particular circumstances. Once again, what we want to do is we're going to go here, make sure our parameters are selected. We're going to, let me turn this off because this right now says I'm in record mode. I don't want to be. We're going to go to our parameters. We're going to hit plus, and we're going to add let's add a trigger. We'll do this one as a trigger, and we'll call this let's just call it arc shot. Arc shot. Okay, and whenever our arc shot occurs, we want to go from our camera idle into our arc animation. So I'm going to right click, make transition, and drop it off on arc animation. And I want to go back to my idle whenever I right click, make transition, and drop it off here. Okay, so for the case of our return from our arc shot into our camera idle, I'm going to leave has exit time on. All right, I'm just going to shrink this all the way down. Shrink it all the way down. Just like that. That's perfectly fine. And I'll drag this over so we're right at the edge of it. That's fine, just like that. For our camera, from our camera idle to our arc animation, we want that to go whenever our trigger goes off, right? So let's go in here. We'll say list is empty currently. We'll say plus sign, and we will add arc shot. That's great. We want to make sure that has exit time is turned off. Okay, make sure that is turned off. And once again, we don't really want to have a long transition between the two. We've actually got a timing transition here as far as a slow out from that position already built into this animation. So let's just make this really, really narrow. Okay, so now we're going to need the code to be able to control this. We want to be able to obviously to set off this arc animation. So let's go back to our camera group, and it's debatable where you want to put this. I'm going to put it right here on the camera group. I'm going to add a component, and I'm going to add a brand new script. And let's call this new script camera, I don't know, group controller. All right, camera group controller, and let's double click on that to get it up. Let's see where it pops up. Okay, right here, we're gonna get our error. Oh, we didn't get one. Okay, great. Let's Control Shift and plus 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 plus. All right, so here's our camera group controller, and we're gonna use this later on if we decide to add in some kind of rotation, like a player controlled camera as well. Maybe we'll do that later on. For now, I want to do a number of different things. For now, I want to add, well, you know what? For now, we're just going to add one thing, and we'll do it in stages. What I want to add is a link, obviously, to the animator. So, animator, and we'll call it my anim. Doesn't really matter what you call it. And actually, you know what? Let's not call it my anim because we might get confused. Let's call it rotation anim. All right, let's call it that. Rotation group anim. I don't want to get confused later on if we decide to add in other shots. So I'll call it rotation group anim, and that obviously refers to the rotation group that we added in. Now, within the start menu, within the start function, excuse me, we want to make sure we can find that reference. So let's go in here, and we're going to say rotation group anim is going to be equal to, and we're going to use the get component, but instead of get component straight up, we're going to use get component in children. Okay, that is where our animator is located. Now, currently we only have one animator in there. If you added more groups, we'd have to change the code here, but for now we only have one animator down there. So the first animator we find is the appropriate one. So I'm going to use get component in children, and I'm going to look for the animator. All right, and once we actually have a reference to this, we can pretty much at any time we can pretty much reference the trigger that we added in here. What do we call it? We called our trigger arc shot. So we're going to be able to use that to reference our arc shot. Now, first of all, what we want to do is we want to add in a public function to allow other objects to trigger our arc shot. All right, we're not going to make the decision on the camera whether or not we're doing the arc shot. Other objects are going to trigger this effect. So let's add in a public function. It's a void function, public function, and let's call it. Let's just call it arc shot. Arc shot. All right, and for now it won't take any. Maybe we'll change that later, but it's not going to take any variables for now. And basically, all we want to do is we want to take our rotation group, anim, and we want to set our trigger. We want to set our trigger. It was called quotations. I forget. It was called arc shot. All right, good. I've named everything arc shot. That should be nice and confusing for you guys. Arc shot, quotations. All right. So basically right now we actually have, let me file save this. We actually have this public interface that allows us to start this arc shot off. Okay? And we're going to leave it like that for now. Let's just leave it like that. We'll do this in steps. So let's go back and let's open up our, let's go back here. Let me move this out of the way for a second here. And let's go in and find our camera pickup. And let's find our cake is where we actually, sorry, our cake pickup, and we actually had this controller script here. Let's open this up again. Now, the cake is what's going to actually which is actually going to start our camera motion. So whenever we pick up anything with whenever we pick up our cake, we want to actually start this thing off. Okay, so there's going to be a couple of things that we're going to need within here. We're going to need a serialized. Let's add it right in here. A serialized field, and it's basically going to be a reference to our controller. I think we called it camera group controller. There we go. Yeah, so we're going to have a serialized field linked to our camera group controller that we'll call Set camera shot, maybe? Set camera shot. That's probably perfectly fine. Set camera shot. Okay. So with this in place, it's a serialized field, which means we're gonna populate it within the inspector. So we're gonna have that available to us. Now, basically, what we want to do is we want to call. Now that we've got this, once we're in here and we've got our object set up, we've picked up our cake, we've destroyed it, our character's in his reward pose. I'll put it right here. I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna call my set camera shot dot arc shot. All right. Oops. Dot arc shot. All right. Add in my that, and I will file save. Excuse me. So now let's check out exactly what happened. Okay, that's good. Let's check out exactly what happened here. I thought we lost our animator. If I hit play right now, bam, we're in maximize on play. Our game kicks in. My character can move around. If I run over and pick up the cake, I should move into my arc shot. Let's check it out. Okay, no, and the reason why is, as I mentioned to you guys before, I forgot to actually populate this serialized field. So we want to make sure we grab our camera group and we want to drop it in there. Boom. All right, now we hit play. We run over, we pick it up, and boop, there is our arc shot. Now, it works fine. Let's stop that. Let's see it again. It works fine, but I want to add a little bit more functionality to this. So right now we're way up high, and maybe that's not what you want out of your shot. Let's grab it again. We're way up high. The camera itself hasn't changed, and we don't really get that celebratory feel, that celebration, that we should get out of that motion. So I want to change a couple of things very, very quickly here. Let's go into our camera group again. Back to our camera group right here, and let's open up our camera group controller right here. There's a couple of things I want to do. What I'd like to do is I'd like to move the camera in closer. So what I want to do is I want to set it up so that we can move our camera around within this actual function right here. All right, within this class. So I'm going to add in a serialized field. And it's going to be a link to it's going to be a reference to our actual camera. We'll call this in here we'll just look at the game object, because that's really what we care about. And we'll call it the camera. Okay. And again, it's a serialized field, which means it was available in our inspector, and we can actually populate our inspector as long as I remember. I often forget. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to be able to move this camera wherever we feel like moving it to. So we're going to want to change a couple of different things. We're going to first of all have to remember where our camera was to begin with, and we're going to have to place our camera where we want it to, and then back to our original dynamic camera position. So basically we need a number of different things. First of all, we need the original position of the camera. So let's declare a vector 3 here, vector 3, that we will call camera original pose. All right, camera original pose, and that is basically going to be the transform. That's basically going to be the transform position of our camera. We have a link to the camera right here. So what we can say here is we can say in our start camera original pose is going to be equal to the camera dot transform dot position. Okay, and that is going to give us not position. I'm lying to you. Local position, and that's going to give us our position within the origin, according to the origin of its parent. Okay, so that's going to give us our local position of this object. All right, great. After that, what we need is we want to be able to set this local position anywhere we want, right? We want to be able to set it within a specific location according to the origin of the actual group, right? That's at the character's feet, and that's what we kind of want to reference everything off of. Okay, so let's start a brand new public void function that we will call set position. And set position is obviously going to refer to the position of the camera. And you could do the exact same thing with the rotation if you want, but for now, we're just going to do it with the position of the camera. And we need a vector 3 in here, which is going to refer to the new position of the actual camera. Okay? And all we want to do in here is we want to set the the camera dot transform dot position, dot local position equal to the new vector 3, so the new position. Okay, so we're going to be setting that equal to that, and it will stay in that location until we move it back. So obviously we need a way to move it back. Let's go in here, let's go down a little bit, let's add a brand new public void function that we'll call return position. All right, and it's not going to take anything at all. It requires no arguments at all because we've already recorded the original value of our position at the top. Okay, so I'll basically, again, we just want to say the camera dot transform dot local position equals, and we want to set it equal to our camera original position. Perfect. Let's file save this. Now, these are both public. I've made these both public so that right now we're gonna access through the arc shot. That's our plan here. So we're gonna go into the arc shot and we're gonna access this. But if later on we decide that we want to access it from something else, to some other kind of shot where we don't actually need to, if we just want to do like a close up or something like that, we could do the same thing here. We could have made these private if we wanted to instead. But rather than doing so, I made them public. So maybe later on we might end up using it. So the last thing we want to do is in arc shot, we actually want to move the camera. Okay, so let's move our camera to an appropriate position using the set position. And the set position, we're going to move it in closer. We're going to move it down and we're going to move it in closer, the camera. Okay, if we take a look at our current camera, our main camera is currently, click on that please, is currently located at 13.5 in the Y and minus 12 in the Z. So let's instead move it somewhere else. Excuse me, let's move it into, we're not going to move it all in the X, so the X position will be the same. Let's move it to the position of 5, so we're moving it down lower in the Y, and let's move it to -5 on the Z. Okay, perfect. All right, that's going to be our set position. That should move our camera into position. Afterwards, we perform our rotation. And lastly, we want to reset the position of our camera. Now, the problem is we don't know when or why. Now, we could, if we wanted to, go into our arc shot and we could do exactly the same thing that we did with our rotation of the, or with our reward pose, how we turned off and turned back on the actual reward pose, like we did with the, when we turned off the movement. We can do the exact same thing here, but instead I want to show you guys something a little different. I'm going to actually create a brand new function. Let's go down here, an enumerator. And this is going to allow us to start a brand new coroutine. Okay, so I'm going to call this I don't know, reset the camera, and it's going to take a float. We'll call it in time, I guess. That's fine. All right, and basically what I want to happen is after a certain amount of time, I want, and this is just to show you guys, you could do it like I said, the same way we did the reward pose and the control of the character. This is just an example of how you could use this particular type of code. After a certain amount of time, I want the camera to be reset. So basically, I'm going to set up a yield right here, and we're going to use yield return, and we're going to use a new wait for. And basically, what a wait for seconds, allows us to do is wait for a certain amount of time before we continue on with the code beneath it. Okay, so we're going to enter into this, and we're going to enter into this function. It's going to wait for a particular amount of time before it executes the lines after that. And basically, the lines after that are going to be return. What did I call this? Return position, and we just want to return position. That's it. So after a specific amount of time, we want to return the position to our original position. Okay, so after a certain amount of time, it's going to go in here and call this. Now, in order to start that coroutine, we have to actually use the words start coroutine, just like that, and we have to say what the coroutine is. It is our reset the camera, and reset the camera takes a particular amount of time, so let's give it the same amount of time as our rotation, which was 2 seconds, so let's do it 2F, and bracket, and that. Alright, now let's file save that. File save. Now let's watch what happens now. Now that we have more control over this. Oops, right here, click, and let's hit play. Oh, I have some errors. Let's check and see what they are. Something takes 3 arguments and it shouldn't. Set position take 3 arguments. Oh, let me see what I did. Set position. Set position. Where's my set position? Oh, okay, right here. This should not just say 005. You can't do that. You have to say new. Excuse me. New. Oh, I'm overwriting. Insert. New vector 3, which is going to be a 0, 5, -5. Brace there. File save. All right, let's take a look at this. Let's hit play now. We should be okay. So there we go. Our player's in there. We can move about. When I go and I pick up my cake, once again, I forgot to fill something in. I hate it when I do that. Let's go to our camera group. Right there, our camera. What's our camera? It is this guy right here. Let's drop it in place. Bang. Hit play. Grab our cake. We moved it nice and tight. We're looking at our character. We've got ourselves a nice arc shot. All right, guys. That's what I wanted to do today. Let's take a look at it one more time. Hit play. And grab it up. All right. Perfect. Now, there is one more thing I want to take a look at, and that is the error we're seeing down here where we have 2 audio listeners. Now, the reason why we actually have 2 audio listeners is because we added in this second camera into our video last week. So let's take a look in the actually, it's way down inside. Let's just see if we can get it here. All right, there we go. We've got ourselves a camera right here in our terminal. Let's scroll down. Let's find our security camera. Is it here? No, it's here. Comp camera. It's our comp camera, and currently we actually have 2 audio listeners. We have this one here, and we have one on our main camera right here. Audio listener on our main camera. We can only have 1 active audio listener in any scene. All right, so we don't need multiple ones. Basically, what it does is exactly as the name implies. It listens for audio and then plays said audio. All right, we don't need one on each and every camera, so let's just get rid of it. You can actually put it anywhere you want in the scene, and I think ultimately we might move it somewhere else anyway. But for now, let's just get rid of the one on remove component. Let's just get rid of the one that's on our actual terminal here. What you want to do once you've done that, click on terminal, the top level of your terminal, and make sure you say apply, and that's going to automatically force the prefab to update as well. We should do that for cake. I don't think we did it last week. Click on your cake pickup and make sure you say apply, and that will force in your project, in your prefabs, it'll force your cake to match the one that's on the screen, and it's going to force the prefab of our terminal to match the one up here as well. Okay, guys, that takes us to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are starting to implement a game of your own. I absolutely look forward to seeing what you guys are doing. Let me know down in the comments. Leave a link. I'd love to see what you guys are doing. All right? Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments down below, and if you haven't done so, please take a few seconds to subscribe. Have yourselves a wonderful day, everyone.